What's your impression of like foreign grads then? Because like when you graduate, you guys will be competing with them, and I think the older mindset is that probably people who are going to employ people, they probably think, oh, foreign grads from Ivy League, wow, great, I'm going to employ him. So what's your consensus on that?
Well, I think it's a stigma which must change over time, that we can't just change it overnight. The government just can't put its foot in and say, look, local grads are as good as overseas grads. I think it takes time for maybe the private sector to actually realize that perhaps local students are actually as good as overseas students. That maybe some of them are just constrained financially, they can't go overseas. They might have the capabilities to go overseas, but they just choose not to because, think away from a financial viewpoint, you spend $300,000 to go overseas, the kind of job you need to actually get back the $300,000 must be significantly better than the kind of job you can get in Singapore. And from what I know, the remuneration in Singapore is actually quite high, and it doesn't make much financial sense to get a huge study loan, be settled with a huge loan on side of a career, and go overseas and study, unless you value the fun so much there.
But do you think overseas graduates that come perhaps from Ivy League or brand name universities have it easier when after they graduate?
I guess so. I think there is still this mentality that going overseas is good, staying locally means like you didn't do as well as the better half of your cohort. When I chose to say a lot of people, oh, what happened to you? Did you do really badly for your A-levels? Which wasn't true, by the way. But I guess, well, I haven't graduated, but that's the sense I'm getting from a lot of people. When I was overseas, I met a lot of Singaporeans that had studied overseas or still were pursuing some sort of MBA, that kind of thing overseas. And I actually had this comment, someone just told me, if I were you, I would just drop out of your local university immediately and apply to go overseas. And whoa,
what's your retort?
That hurt, man. Just smile at these things.
No physical.
No, I think to prove someone wrong, it takes a lot of time, and it's gonna take a lot of effort on my part to really do well. And maybe in 10 years' time, I can tell him, I'm so glad I stayed, at least. But that's how it is, and that's what a lot of people are telling me. And I think it's gonna take, let's say, a whole generation of local graduates to change their mindset and show local and international companies that Singaporean graduates can make it, or can make it just as well as their overseas educated counterparts.
Yeah, but just a point of note, right? Because I was having this discussion with my friend actually like a couple of months ago. Actually, we think it's kind of like a vicious cycle to some extent. Because for one, we believe that local students are not good enough. So goes to belief, and hence you're in local university. So all the good students would try every single mean to go overseas. And then after that, it's true that not so good students get left in the local universities, because the better ones always try to take up the scholarships. I have many friends in the public sector. They actually do not want to work for the public sector, but they refuse to go to the local university because they say the education is not as good, people label you as a local student, and so on and so forth. So it's actually quite a vicious cycle, and something has to be done rather radically to actually change this mindset. Because if it's not changed, I see it continuing on and on as a vicious cycle, if you would agree. Because the better students, right, it's not that they want to work for the government. They might not have the financial capability to go overseas, but they do not want to stay in Singapore because of the stigma attached to it. So they all try all means to go overseas. And, what does that lead to? Most of the time it leads to the weaker students being left in Singapore. So it's going to be a hard stigma to remove, I believe.
I think on the flip side, there are also like students who are not so academically able, but still find some means to go overseas to study, because they can't make it to local use, and their parents are giving them pressure to actually study, so they're like, let's just go here or let's just go there. And so on the flip side, you have these people that sort of like diluting the overseas grad pool in a way as well. So do you think that is equalizing factor?
But I guess it's not really a clear distinction per se. It's treading on rather dangerous territory, but normally the universities which students are not as strong, perhaps go to make it in Singapore universities, go overseas. Some of them do that, right? People kind of know which universities they are, so you can't just label it as overseas universities and local universities. It's like the university you went to, maybe got Ivies, London and Oxbridge, and local use. I think that's the main comparison here, not really just any overseas university.
Watch our other clips to hear what Singaporeans have to say about local grads versus overseas grads.